So here's the finalised base, which is basically all the polystyrene I could find in the house. One's from a package I've just had. I found a bit of blue styrene, which is much better to work with than the white, I can guarantee it, but unfortunately I haven't got any. So I made a mistake where I cut out the whole half there, so I had to put another chunk back in. So what's going to happen is there's going to be this is going to be planked out and part of the internal hut. And then you're going to have a guy kneeling at the bottom of the tunnel, just there. You're going to have a guy laying down on the trolley going through the tunnel. And then here, they used to have a air pump, which was kind of done by air pumped out by a man there. And then the air was pumped underneath the tunnel itself and out certain vents. So it looks very crude, very awful at the moment, and I'm hoping that with all the panelled wood in there that I want to use from lollipops, like sticks or thin strips of wood, it's going to make it a lot better. I'm probably going to use some textured paint as well for the part of the tunnel, as opposed to putting a lot of putty on it, because I think it's going to be too messy. So good luck, and let's see where it's going to take us. So what I'm doing here now is just taking some dry ground. I should have had wet ground, but I haven't got wet ground, so I'm going to use dry ground. And I'm just filling in kind of the flooring to show that mud effect where they would have been digging, and to hide the polystyrene basically. It's basically got a little model trowel, and then just scraping it on like you would on a wall really in your house. On the floors. I'm going to smooth it out, obviously, and I'm going to do this for the majority of the model. I'll get back to you when I've finished. Okay, so there's the textured paint put on. I've just got to let this dry. Now the reason I've used this textured paint is, first of all, that's what I had in my stock and nothing else, so that's handy. Secondly, it adds a bit of weight, because at the moment it's just purely polystyrene, so this gives it a bit more kind of solid feel to it, and a bit heavier, which is, you know, quite nice. You don't want it too light. And thirdly, it was easy to manipulate with just this little modeller's trowel. Yeah, so I'm going to let that dry. Now originally I was only going to do the floor and where the tunnel starts, because obviously a lot of this is going to be wooden panels where they held the mud, you know, the earth above from falling out on them. But I thought, well, as I've got more textured paint than I thought, I did the whole thing, and therefore if there's any gaps between the planks of wood that I install, at least there'll be mud behind it. So that's what I've done that. Now I'll probably paint this because it looks too light to me, and remember these are dark tunnels, so I might put kind of a darker brown on this, but let's do that in the next step maybe. You're going to have to forgive the lighting for the time being. It is kind of midday and the light comes in, but I will show you that I've found 3 pieces of wood. Now one of them is uncannily the same size as this diorama. That's just pure luck, absolute luck. I've never had so much luck in all my life, I don't think. That's absolutely spot on. So I could use that for the floor, and what I've done is marked out where the hole will be from where they're going to be digging. Now I don't know if I'm going to use it raised or not, because the actual hut was off on bricks, so I might have to raise it, but I'll maybe use some polystyrene for that. And then I found 2 other pieces of wood which will do for the sides of the house, or hut shall I say, not house. Now I am aware that one size being the other, so I might have to cut a few out and maybe put a window in as well, but we'll see. Okay, so I've decided to go for a raised hut like it was in the film. And even if I don't, I'm just being cautious. I'm going to put the mud down underneath the huts, and I'm just sort of smoothing it out. So obviously it wouldn't be dead smooth like a plasterer. I'm just dabbing on with the tool just to make it a bit more rough, as obviously there'll be no smoothing out of normal ground underneath, and that it gives us a rough surface. Now if I do put the base of the hut on it, then this will be hidden by the glue on top of the hut. Well, let's see what I feel like, but at the moment I'm just going to dab it as if it's mud underneath the hut that we will see later on. Okay, so what I'm doing now is putting some panels into the hut, and I looked at the film and they're all vertical, so I'm going to put them in vertically. So I'm just taking this rod of wood, I'm just measuring out, not precise, just roughly the size of the planks. And then because this is just balsa wood, I've found that you can just use a knife and press down and then bend and snap, and that does the trick. And then you can, if you want, depends how finicky you are, you can just file the top of it to make it smooth, both sides if you want. Now as I'm putting these panels on, these wooden panels, you can just see that I'll put them in there. Just bear in mind, if you're going to put a window in, make sure you measure the width of each panel, so that when you put a new one in, you don't have to mess about with doing half a panel across where the window has stopped and finished. So make sure that you've got at least, obviously I've got 5 on this one, but if I had put 3 or 4 in, or kind of 4.5, I would have had to cut this down, which is not a problem being a balsa wood, but it's just another pain, a pain that's unnecessary. So just bear that in mind, that just make sure that the windows are the same width as the amount of panels you want it to fit. So what I found was this, is just cut these, because it's only thin, kind of like 1 mil, 2 mil, is cut it kind of three quarters of the way through, and then just snap, and you've got a virtual clean cut there. Maybe a little bit of filing, but hardly worth, it's hardly worth it. So yeah, don't go all the way through and then break the edges there. Just halfway through or 3/4 of the way through, then snap, and it comes out quite clean. Okay, more expense was had. I had to buy a length of this wood, and probably about 20 mil by 20 mil balsa wood, and this is going to be for making the chimney from where the stove was, so that's going to go on there. Now also that was brick, so I also had to buy a sheet of brick because I don't want to get in the hassle of making bricks myself, and I'm a bit lazy like that, and it's my first attempt, so yes, I have had some expense, but the brick's going to go on there, another one on that side, another one on that side, and then obviously that's going to be stuck to the wall. Now also I'm going to use this same method for making these stands from where the base of the hut was stood on, leaving a gap between the ground and the hut itself, as you see in the film. Now I don't know if this is a lazy way or just me the way I'm doing it, but basically holding the balsa down and then just scoring it with a model knife along the template of the bricks, and then I shall tear out or cut out. So here's the interior of the hut to date. As you know, there's going to be a brick column there where the heater was, so the stove. So that's going to go in there eventually, but before I put that in there, I need to colour the wood. Now the colour is a bit bright for me, and I know These were fairly new cabins, but I'm just going to lighten it down a bit. Darken it down a bit. Maybe put some wood colour on it, which is this one here, although it looks a bit too dark. So I might put in a IDF sand just to darken it down a little bit, and weather it a little bit, but not too much, because end of the day, this isn't old wood, so yeah, we'll see how it goes. So for the panels of the planks of wood, I'm just getting a scalpel and scoring along, so it looks like they've got planks of wood instead of just one line, one full plank, which they wouldn't be. You don't want to go too deep because you want to cut it, but just as it's balsa wood, it's going to do it pretty close. It's just making scoring, so when I put a wash over that, it's going to highlight these planks a bit more. Okay, just a quick update. So what I've done is I've painted or airbrushed some different planks of wood, different colours. I'm going to put over a kind of a wash over that, just to make it get in the creases, make it a bit more darker, because it does look a bit light. Just use the standard Model Air wood effect sand. Used a sand ivory, a IDF sand grey, and I use concrete as a base. And then I've also made out of the balsa a little bunk bed, and these are the panels, which I've done slightly darker from that because it's going to be underground, obviously. So I've made these slightly darker to show that, and that's just these panels which will be going against the walls to hold the earth in place. I've also done a rail track for the trolley, which will escort troops through the tunnel. Now, again, mostly all balsa, apart from the wheels. Now, the wheels I found from some plastic sprues, which was a Sherman, I think, or a Tank's sprocket or idler wheel, and I just cut out the inside of it and used them for wheels, and that will fit on the track. And that all, I was going to paint those metal tin, because I think they use metal tins as the wheels. And then I found some handles and from another plastic sprue that I haven't used for years, so I use that for when I put the rope through, as it had rope to pull the trolley back and forth. Now for the axles of the trolley, I didn't have any cocktail sticks, so it's slightly thicker than I wanted, but I've used some cotton buds and just cut parts of the cotton buds in, and that'll do for me. I mean, you're not gonna see much of that anyway, but I think that turned out okay in the end. Now, if you remember the actual film, The Great Escape, they had a brick wall on part of the hut, and on that was the boiler or the stove that they dug underneath. And what I have found in its place, I've found a kind of an old kind of fuel barrel from an old tank sprue, which I will use. And I think this is an exhaust from an old tank, which I shall put upside down as part and fit that to the brick wall like that. And obviously use that as a kind of the pipe from the boiler. Okay, so I've made the bunk beds. Now I've used this what is a kind of it was a filing stick, file, which is 12,000 grit, which I don't think I'm ever going to use. It looks so smooth that I'm never going to smooth that filing down that smooth. So I've just cut it up. I'm going to use it for the kind of mattress for the beds. And although I do like the colour of that mattress, I'm actually going to try and use a mask. Just cut out the white underside of this what do you call it, mask, COVID mask, and use that as the kind of the sheet over the top, see if that works. So I'm just making this mattress same as I did the last one, which is on the bunk bed already. It's just PVA glue on a file. Just gonna stick that over. Make sure it's nice and tight. That. Then I'm gonna do the same again on the bit I've just stuck down. I'll wrap the other part over. So it's going to be that way up. And then again, I'm going to glue down the edges. Make it as nice and tight as possible. Both sides. Use as much glue as you think you need. Then when that's dry, turn that over, and that will be the blanket or mattress. Just highlighting the stove and the pipe on the wall that the stove was attached to. There you go. Kind of black with a metal over the top, which was the lead belcher, dry brushed on, and that'll go onto the wall. So it looks like that barrel, which is going to use for the stove, does actually look just like a barrel. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this idler wheel from a Sherman and whatever this was, some kind of hash I'm guessing, maybe put that on top like so, and that's the pipe leading to the extrusion outside the hut, and shove that on top. It just makes it a little bit more interesting than the boring barrel it was. So after about half an hour, I've kind of drilled out and fired out the innards of this idle wheel, and then put a little indent in for the side of this top, whatever it is. Now it's still not flush, so I'm quite annoyed, but I think it'll have to do for now. I'm just going to paint that in, glue it, put it in, and then put it on top of the barrel that's in there, and that'll be my stove. I've also drilled out a hole there for the steam to come out. So I'm just making this ceramic tiles. If you remember, they put some holes in here so that they can take out the tiling before they dug. So all I've done is got a piece of wood, matched it with the size of the hole, and to make the tiles, all I've done is filed down the edges to get an indentations, and then I'll paint it I think it was kind of a terracotta or hull red, which I've got. I haven't got a terracotta, but hull red will probably do the same trick, and then that will be the tiles. There you go, tiles. Okay, so here's the tunnel and hut to date. I've glued the hut to the ground. I've put window frames in using a piece of wood. Just painted it. Floor tiles where the hole of the tunnel is. Now I've also made a ladder to go in, which needs painting. I've changed the string from what I said I was using with that beef net. I've actually used some string I found. It's a bit of a browner colour, bit of more of a rope, so I will use that instead. Plus it's elasticy. And then also what I have done, a couple of tools, spade and an axe, and have them laying around the floor somewhere, no longer needed. Got some wire cutters that I shall put on, paint it and put that in this scenario. Just primed this guy. He'll be pulling the ropes between the trolleys. And last but not least, I have built a air system which they used in the film. Now I basically took a photo from the film, obviously can't show on YouTube for copyright reasons, but I used some balsa wood for the main frame. This pushes the air through with this, what's going to be canvas when I've painted it, and what I used for those was literally a tie that you use that's got metal and plastic. It's a little tie that you get for like bread and stuff like that, and I've just glued two together and made it look like kind of the canvas that goes in and out. So yeah, I shall be using that, but I'll use it as discarded, and that will be in the tunnel where I couldn't fit a guy. I'm going to put that in there instead as no longer required. Okay, so there's the finished article. So basically use the same paints, the concrete, and then I put a Agrax earth shade over it, and then I used like a 70s green US Army, and then on top of that I put an olive drab, just give it a bit more contrast, and that'll do. Turned out okay. And here is the final video of my Great Escape scratch built model that I've done, 1/35 scale. As you can see, a lot of this is scratch built. There are a few bits from other models that I've used, but mainly I've used kind of polystyrene covered in textured paint for the mud and earth. And for the wood, I've literally used kind of little planks of balsa for the bed, for the doors, windows, etc, etc. And the brick effect is actually a sheet of brick that I've had left over from other builds. Accessories I've used, well, the civilian guy there and the civilian guy there. Obviously I've moved position on this one, but they were like 1/35 scale German civilians, so I've done them as if they're going out into the German streets. And then, yes, this is a German soldier here. Was a milking modelled from Masters 1/35 scale. But there was people dressed as German soldiers trying to escape as well. So for the stove that they use in the film, I've used an old fuel tank from a tank from 1/35, and that is an actual wheel that I've kind of cleaned out and put a kind of sprue section inside, so it looks a bit like a stove. And for where the stove would sit, I've put a exhaust shroud from a tank that was in there. Now obviously that stove there would be placed there, but as they're digging under the stove, there's the hole where the stove would be. There's the grate that the stove was on, and that was literally a piece of balsa wood, and then painted with the tiles where they've just dug them up. And again, for the ladders, a bit of balsa wood. The trolley was made out of balsa wood and a few pieces of plastic that are from an old sprue. And then you can turn the side, and if you see it very well because of the light, but that is the kind of air where they're trying to get the air pumped through the air pump. So when you're tunnelling, the air goes through that. Now that was scratch built again from a bit of balsa and pieces of plastic, a few shovels from tanks in my past, and that is it really. Now again, as I say, it's all scratch built, or the majority of it is, with a few accessories from old sprues and a couple of guys that I bought purposely, so it's quite cheap to build in the end. I enjoy doing it. It's not many I don't see many of these around, so I thought I'd do something different for a change. The bedding there was done with I think I've already told you once, but it was done by a kind of a sponge file, and then covered it with material from the insides of a COVID mask, believe it or not. So that's for the pillows and the bedspread. Okay, well, thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope it gives you some inspiration to do kind of similar builds. This is my first kind of scratch buildy type scenario that I've done. And as you can see, so we've got, just to show what's happening here, obviously one guy is going down the tunnel, ready to escape through the forest. You've got the guy with the rope ready to bring the trolley back, ready for the next guy. And then you've got a guy at the top there learning a bit of German on his newspaper, waiting for his next turn to get down the tunnel. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.